All right. So hello and welcome. You know what? We'll go ahead and get started. It's just a minute or two past the top of the hour. I'm Ron Babbage from Hard Dollar, and we have some other people on the line as well. First of all, we have a big crowd on the line as well. We had a pretty big turnout for today. Joining us today in 3 ways to increase profits with dynamic data is Jennifer Leiner from InfoMine or CostMine.com. Jennifer, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, very good. Jennifer's going to be a big part of our presentation today because Jennifer's going to present how the equipment costs actually are calculated, how some of these things work together. And then we also have Paul Binion. Hello, Paul. Hello, Ron. Paul's going to be leading us through kind of the functional aspect of how this works and really what our primary objectives are. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. I want to again thank everybody for joining us today and taking a few minutes from your busy schedule to see how we can help automate the process of increasing profits and by using dynamic data to its fullest form. So if we can hit the first slide. I want to give just a very brief introduction. I just went through introductions a little bit, but I'll just kind of cover it again. Jennifer is the president of CostMine, division of InfoMine. She's also a senior geologist with Western Mine, has a degree in engineering over 19 years with geology from Colorado State University. My name is Ron Babbage. I'm at Hard Dollar here, senior vice president. Been here for 3+ years now and spent the last 15 years of my life doing cost management within the marketplace. We can go to the next slide. Today, I just want to give you a brief overview of what we're looking at to do today. So we're going to really start with the overview of the CostMine database and selecting equipment in the pre-feed stage. We're going to look at how to integrate the automated electronic database right directly into the cost model estimate so that we can save time by not having to manually kind of pull things into our work breakdown structure and really make a connection of these two elements. Primarily, our agenda today is going to focus on how do we maximize the ability of creating a very good work breakdown structure from pre-fees to fees to definitive estimate and plugging these data points all along the way. And it's pretty exciting stuff, and it's really the first time this has really kind of ever been done where we have the ability to do that. So it's very exciting for us as well. We're also going to look at customizing currency creation for unit cost items and resource components, breaking down, even within a single project, multiple currencies based on the activities that they're related to. And then the last thing we're going to do is look at how to maintain a running record of production and development. So as life changes, as it always does, and as equipment needs change, and as needs change from a WBS perspective, that we're keeping up on those changes. Just throwing it up there, and I think some of these actually are on the line today, but a few customers that are utilizing a lot of the data that we're going to look at today from a Hard Dollar perspective and even an InfoMine perspective as well are up on the screen there. And then if we go to the next slide, I really want to kind of give it, if you're not familiar with Hard Dollar at all, I won't spend a lot of time on Hard Dollar, but I want to just kind of give you a brief 5-second intro as to what Hard Dollar really represents. Hard Dollar is focused on cost and productivity management. The primary bar that you see there on the bottom, project cost management, encapsulates cost and productivity throughout the whole project lifecycle, whether it's through the design takeoff with planning from OnCenter or ePlan or Bentley or other design elements, through the estimate, which is the yellow component there you see, which is internal to Hard Dollar, also taking into consideration other estimating systems like Timberline or other estimating sources, directly into the schedule dynamically through the API with bidirectional interface into Microsoft Project and Primavera, measuring progress for quantities and percent complete and cost measurements as well as progress, and then finally into the ERP system. So all of this best-in-class functionality, all centralized, so we only have to look in one place for cost and productivity. Sure, we have elements in the accounting system, but those elements might be delayed, and without a central place for operations to store cost and productivity, there really isn't a good viewpoint on a day-to-day basis to where the project really stands, where the number really came from, and then how does all this stuff talk to each other. Hard Dollar represents that piece. It provides a comprehensive solution for estimating progress, measurement, and history, also the multi-currency, also multiple rate libraries, and then really modeling all the equipment resource rates, which we're going to do a little bit today during the exercise. We're also looking at historical analysis, which is really also a big deal. How did we come up with costs? Well, we've got 6 years worth of production data or 15 years worth of production data. Changing costs as the elements kind of drive us to do that, or needs drive us to do that. Embedding, even though we say stamp out spreadsheets, that's our whole mantra, and that's what we live by. We also know that sometimes if you can't beat them, you got to join them on certain things. And they're very good for certain things on calculations. So rather than fight that battle, oftentimes we'll literally take advantage of some of those calculations when we have some pretty monstroscopic calculations that have to take place to come up with a takeoff number or a calculation number. And then lastly, really live integration with third-party providers like Means and Richardson's and InfoMine, which is what we're doing today. So without any further ado, I'm going to toss this over to Jennifer, and she's going to kind of go through and explain the types of data and the types of equipment costs that you'll be able to see in just a second that are brought into hard dollar. So Jennifer, I'll toss it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. One of the things that I would like to, and I'm going to have to make sure that I've got the right screen up, I do, is give you a little overview of the type of information that we provide. CostMine is a division of InfoMine, and we do provide equipment and supplies and labor costs for the mining industry at a pre-feasibility level. This information is designed so that the cost estimator can go to our information. They can get the basic information that they need to be able to get their project evaluated at a pre-feasibility level basis in a hurry. So that you don't have to call all the equipment manufacturers. You don't have to go place to place and spend a lot of time trying to get good, solid numbers that are usable. Our information comes from the suppliers, the equipment manufacturers, and mining companies themselves. We get our labor data annually with surveys to the actual mines. We work with the mining companies to keep our database in good order. The information provided is generally not provided as actual model numbers. How we present the information is by the specs for the equipment. So you're looking for a 300-ton truck. You're looking for a shovel of a certain capacity, this type of thing. So it gives a good basis for an estimate, and then as you are moving through your project and feasibility studies or in operations, you will of course be able to refine that information. The product that we're going to be talking about most today that we have integrated with Hard Dollar is the Equipment Cost Calculator. Now, the Equipment Cost Calculator is the online interactive version of our Mine and Mill Equipment Estimator's Guide. We've been publishing this information since early 1990s, and Mining Cost Service, which is also one of our publications, has been around since 1983. So we were Western Mine Engineering prior to becoming part of InfoMine, and so that's a little background on us. What I have here on the screen is the basic Equipment Cost Calculator screen. I'm going to go ahead and quickly add a new project, and just to show you how easy it is done. You simply give it a name, save it, and then you can go to surface equipment. You can add a backhoe, and it'll list all the backhoes that we have in our inventory. At this point in time, simply adding the appropriate size backhoes. You can add one or two, and then you just add it to the inventory. I can do the same thing with trucks. I can add a haul truck. And this is mining equipment, mind you. So we can add a rear dump haul truck of the appropriate size, and we will need 4. Now, if I change my mind, so right now, oops, I'm in the wrong demo. Right now, if I'm looking at changing any of my equipment, so I have added trucks now. I added a backhoe to this inventory, and I have added a rear dump truck. All I have to do is go back to my inventory, switch it out, and I don't want that in anymore. All I have to do is say 0, and then I can select a different piece of equipment. So it's very simple to add and subtract to your inventory. This example that we're using today is actually an underground example. So to do that, we need underground equipment, and I'm going to get rid of the inventory that I already added. And again, it's a simple process. So what do we do now with our costs? If you'll notice right up here, we've got hourly operating costs and capital costs. So the capital cost column is here. The hourly operating costs are based on these parameters. Now, these parameters may not be what you're seeing at your project. So we allow the user to go in and edit the different cost parameters. So say, for instance, my electric power rate is much higher at my project. So I'm going to add, I'm going to change that. And if I go back to my inventory, now you can see that the electric power rate is now 11 cents per kilowatt hour instead of 7. And that sweeps through the entire project set so that the fuel and power for each piece of equipment now has changed appropriately based on the selection I have made up here. Same goes for if you edit units and currency. We can also go to any currency you would like. However, bear in mind that the project, the database is in US dollars, so you have to apply the appropriate exchange rate for the currency you've selected. We also operate in both metric and US standard or imperial units, so you can switch those out. So back to the project. Simply setting up the project, we can go back into it. And now we can export those. We can take a look at a capital cost report, and we can look at an operating cost report. And this is by hour. These can be exported to Excel, or as Paul is going to indicate, you will be able to go straight into a hard dollar with these figures. These can be changed quickly and efficiently. If you are looking for information other than straight equipment, which is what we're showing here, we do have other options for information, including Mining Cost Service, which is a publication that gives basic information on everything from labor costs to supplies to smelter costs to cost indices. So that will allow you to augment the information that you're looking at when you're building your project. At this point in time, I think, Paul, it will send it back to you and Ron, and I'll see if I can change my control here.
Thanks, Jennifer.
All right. So, and any questions, or if you want me to jump back in, I can do that at any time.
Stay tuned. We're definitely going to do that. Okay, great. Yeah, thanks a lot, Jennifer. Paul here, and I'm going to walk you through a little scenario of how we might take this InfoMine data and bring it into a real life pre-feasibility type of project. And for this example, I'm going to use this simple breakdown that I've come up with. We're doing some underground work, and you can see I have some drifts, and I have 200 meters that we're doing drilling, blasting, load, and haul. If I jump in here, it gives me a more detailed view of how I have costed out these items. So what you see come up on your screen is kind of a worksheet view of hard dollar, where I can look at things in more detail. So under this lateral development work, we're doing these drifts. And down below, I can see the crews that I've put together. I have two what we call assemblies. And under one of them, I've put together all of my equipment. Okay. If I expand that, we can see that I've brought in
a number of equipment items from InfoMine. And when I brought them in, I'm able to give them a code that starts with whatever I want. I put INs to help me know, hey, these are rates that I brought in from InfoMine that I'm using. And you can see I brought them in, and I was able to indicate how many of each of those pieces of equipment I need. So for example, I have a jumbo here that has 2 booms on it, so I have 2 feeds of the actual drifters, the drills themselves. If I scroll down just a little bit more, you can see as well that I have bits and steel actually up at the top there, and my bits and steel is being driven by the 200 meters that I have up above. Okay, so this is the cost model that I've put together for how much it's going to cost me to do this work. It's the equipment itself and the labor that I also have on here. You can see if I crunch this down, I also have labor on there. And that labor is a crew here. You can see what I have. And the labor and the equipment, they're being driven by my production over on the right-hand side here. So you see I have, for example, that we have an advance rate right now of 3.24 meters per day is what we've calculated we can do. And so then that factors with the individual labor and equipment rates to come up with my unit, my total cost up above. So if I expand once again this drilling assembly, we can see that I have all of these items that came in from InfoMine. Well, let's do a scenario where perhaps this drift that we're drilling into was a softer kind of rock that was more of a limestone, and now we're moving into a phase where we're moving into harder rock, in this case granite. And because it's a dramatic enough change in the density of the rock, we need to make a change with our equipment. So I actually want to go back to InfoMine and do a switch out here, where I'm going to switch out this jumbo IM450 for one that has more horsepower. Okay. So to do that, first place I'll take us to is what we call our resource rate register. And this is where all of my resources, my equipment, my labor, materials, all my different resources are stored for this project that I'm in. You can see that I have those pieces of equipment that I had already brought in from InfoMine showing up. Well, when I want to go and actually access InfoMine Direct, I don't even need to leave my application here. I can simply click right on the shortcut. Notice it says InfoMine. And when I click on that, it takes me directly to the equipment cost calculator where I can log in. I just put in my password. And I'm in. Now I would then have listed any projects that I've created. Notice I have this project here. When I click open, there's the list of all that equipment that you saw in hard dollar that I had brought in. The one difference is that I've jumped ahead a step, and I have actually 2 kinds of jumbos showing up. The first one listed here is the one that is showing up in hard dollar, the 266 by 360. If I jump back to hard dollar real quick, the main application, we'll jump back there in a minute, and you'll see that that was already listed in there. Then I also have this new jumbo piece of equipment. You'll notice that if I look at the horsepower on here, the original one that I have employed in hard dollar right now is just 148 horsepower. We're going to move up to 478 horsepower. Okay, so I'm going to want to bring or add that new piece of equipment into hard dollar. So I simply come down and say Add to HD, and it lists once again all of those pieces of equipment. I've already brought in all of those except for this new piece of equipment, the number 3360, the 2-boom that has the the greater dimensions and the greater horsepower. And so now I want to bring that into hard dollar. Now while we're here, let's just take a look at this screen and what kind of functionality it gives me to help me kind of cater these items to my needs. First of all, you'll notice that it lists out that whole cost breakdown on the right here. And it has little check boxes next to each of those parts of the breakdown of the rate. So I can check or uncheck whatever elements of that rate I need or don't need to include. Okay, so if any one of these, let's take the one that we're bringing in and say that maybe I didn't need to include the tires into the equation there. So I can uncheck that. That will adjust my rate accordingly. Also, you'll notice that I have default settings buttons down here at the bottom left. If I click on that, I have listed for me how all of the categories in hard dollar match up with these categories that are in InfoMine. So you can see here that listed on the left are all of the categories, cost categories from InfoMine, and I'm simply matching them up with whatever categories, whatever cost buckets I want to put them in hard dollar. So these options here are the hard dollar options. So, you know, maybe I just wanted tires and tracks to go under repair as well. I could send that to the repair parts category where it will be combined with maintenance parts. Okay, I also have different settings that I can set up as defaults of whether they'll be included or not included as far as the breakdown of my costs. So I could have it so that tires are never included for any of my pieces of equipment. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and go with those options. I also have under settings up in this section, because InfoMine has quite a bit of specifications data, we are able to bring that information in as well so that you can take advantage of that. And that comes in to a special column in hard dollar as notes. So you can specify to bring those in as well. If you had already brought in a resource, maybe you've made some changes in InfoMine to that piece of equipment and you want to bring it in again, you can select that it will overwrite the piece of equipment that was already in there. And last of all, you have this prefix that you can put on. That's going to go on the beginning of the resource code, as you saw that I had done in hard dollar, where all of those pieces of equipment began with IN for the code. All right, well now we've explored how you can toy with your rates here right on this screen and get things going into the right categories and so forth. Let's go ahead and bring it on in. So we're going to bring in just that one piece of equipment. When I click OK, we'll see another one add in there. Sure enough, there it is. The new 3360 jumbo drill. So notice that I'm utilizing all of those other pieces of equipment, not utilizing that one yet. But before I go and employ it into my estimate, I might also want to make some adjustments to it. You saw how you could make adjustments to the costs in InfoMine, also do things such as currency changes and unit of measure changes. You can do those same kinds of things right inside of hard dollar as well. Notice that under notes, I have all of those specifications that came in from InfoMine. And if I expand the piece of equipment, here's the breakdown of those categories and how much falls in to each category. Okay. I also could go into a more detailed view here and see the breakdown of all of my rate. Okay. So we're ready to maybe make the change since we are into harder rocks. So let's get back to that example that we were looking at. We're back looking at drifts. And if I go back into that item again, you'll recall we had this particular jumbo drill, and we want to switch that out now for the new rate. So the drill that's on there right now has a unit cost of $123. That is going to factor with how many hours are in my production to come up with my unit, my total cost. Well, let's make a change now. We're going to switch that equipment out to the IM3360. Okay, then it gives me this little prompt. Do you want to keep the current kind of setup details? We'll go ahead and do that. And we now see that this is updated to 165, and I now can see how that affects the total cost of doing this drift. Another consideration I might make is, we're using this new piece of equipment. Perhaps we would also be changing our beads and drills and so forth. And my bits and steel, perhaps we're going to go through more of them because we're in harder rock. So instead of for every 200 meters us using 16,000, maybe it's going to be 18,000 of my bits and steel. So I can go ahead and update that. And once again, I'm going to see how that is the cost impact on my estimate that I'm putting together. So that's just a pretty basic example of how we can have this relationship between hard dollar and InfoMine, using the example of a change needs to take place. We need to switch out equipment, and how you can interact with InfoMine right from within hard dollar to make those kinds of adjustments and changes.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Paul. I think that's excellent. I should have announced too that from a questions perspective, we've got some chats, and if you figure that out, you figure that you can actually ask some questions through the chat. I'd like to open it up on the audio too, probably at this point, so we can, now that we're done with that, just in case there are any dogs barking or sirens outside. But if we can technically open it up on the call stuff, then I'd like to do that now. In real life, and the interesting thing about this, if you haven't figured it out yet, in real life, what you used to have to do would be either go online like we are separately through the online database, or open up your book, go through the book, go figure all that stuff out, then manually type all that stuff in. But this will hopefully save tons of time, tons of mistakes too that would be accidental mistakes from a crossover perspective, and really allow a much more flexible and dynamic build-out of not only creating a WBS up front to say, well, we've done this type of project, we know that a drift of this type is going to require this data within it, but also to kind of really be dynamic as things are needed as a benchmark to move forward on without having to manually go back and forth before this. So really before this, and you know what you're doing today, obviously, and because you're going through the same motions today, but you know the effort that it requires if you don't have the ability to kind of automate this process. So there is an offer right now for the equipment cost calculator from InfoMine. So if you want to try it for 1 week, InfoMine is willing to do that, to provide the InfoMine equipment cost calculator for 1 week to give it a shot and play with the data and see what it's all about. So if you send an email to Jennifer, she'd be happy to set that up for you. Let me give you Jennifer's email address. It's J as in John, LEINART@infomine.com. So if you send her an email, she'd be happy to set that up for you. Likewise, if you're looking to see how the whole thing works in conjunction with hard dollar, we're happy to provide a real quick overview of how that works in your own environment. And if you'd like as well, we'll go ahead and, if you're a hard dollar user already, by the way, and I didn't mention that, this is already included in your package. So there's no extra cost, there's no extra charge on the hard dollar side, from a hard dollar perspective on the client side. So we'll provide you the link for the plugin that you can utilize this, and it's at no cost on the hard dollar side, just getting the subscription with InfoMine, and you're ready to go. So again, email Jennifer if you'd like to get that thing going for a week. And then Paul?
Yes, we have a question from Michael Atkinson, and we'd like to answer that at this time. This is the question is, what if you have several different labor rates? That is an excellent question, very common as we work in the mining industry, that you're going to have multiple different sets of labor rates that you may need to incorporate into your project. Hard Dollar actually has the concept of a library that stores all of your different labor rates. Then you're able to simply pull in with literally a couple clicks, be able to select the particular set of labor rates from your library that contains all of the different rate sets. You're able to click a couple clicks, bring them right into the project.
That's a great, that is a great question too, because not only are the labor rates available, but they're also available from a geographic area perspective. So you may have 6 different sets of labor rates for different geographies, maybe one down in South America, one in, up in Northeast Canada, for example, all relative to the same WBS structure, but all supporting a different geographic area for those labor rates. So you don't have to change the structure of the job. I simply have to just say, this is the labor rates I want to use. And the cool part about that is, again, it ties right into the InfoMine database, so I can get a good running start with it.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Ron. Just like you see here, I'm in my job properties, and here you can see I have my different geographies I may be using, different work types. I can simply select the geography type I need and bring it right along in. Looks like we also have a question for Jennifer that we'd like to bring up at this time. How often are the costs updated in InfoMine? Jennifer, did you want to speak to that?
Okay, yes. What we do is all of the information in Mining Cost Service and the Equipment Cost Calculator is updated at least annually. We are currently in the process of reloading the 2011 Equipment Cost Calculator database. The database we were using today was actually last year's database, so the new database will be available here shortly. We sell annual. What we do is we sell an annual subscription to the database, and if you keep the subscription going, you automatically get access to the newer databases. The advantages also are you can go backward and you can actually look at databases from previous years if you are a current subscriber. That gives the advantage of going back 5 years. So if you're trying to compare an older cost estimate with a newer cost estimate, then you can actually compare the capital cost numbers. In addition, we do provide labor survey reports. Those are available on our CostMine website, and that is you can see what information we have. We have good information for the U.S. and Canada. We also have international exploration rates, and then we are working with another company in Australia, and we provide the same thing for Australia. So these are all. This is all information that we update on a regular basis, and it's usually on a rotating basis.
Very good. Okay, I think there's one more question I just saw pop on under questions. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Projected trend cost. What about if I need a projection? Is there any database with projected trend cost? That's probably, and to me, Paul, and you could correct me, but I think that's almost like a two-part question, because part of that is if the question is around current progress on projected trends, Hard Dollar has the ability to take the estimated original cost, and then based on our current actuals, forecast based on productivity averages against what we projected, as well as calculations on last entry for like last week's entry for forecasted productivity, average productivity forecasted, and then perfect world productivity forecasted. So projecting what those trend costs are going to be based not only on the current project, but even on a historical perspective, like with our project facts element, all with the starting place of using the InfoMine database as here's where we started, here's where we're projecting based on either the current activity within that project or the litany of 6 projects that are underway. So the answer is yes. It was a long-winded way for me to say yes. And I think that might be it. I don't think there's any additional questions. I know how valuable everybody's time is, and I really appreciate everybody taking the time today, especially Jennifer too, to go through everything. And it is a pretty neat offer on the one-week trial, I think, to play with that data and get familiar with it. You really should take advantage of it and utilize that. And again, right now, at least for now, and next year could be a different story, but this comes as part of the hard dollar database, so there's nothing extra to buy. Another question just popped up: what kind of reports can it generate? And
yeah, I'll speak to that one, Ron, for you. As far as reporting goes, there's a number of different ways that you can do reports. You can, for example, create and set up different views right here on the screen. Where right now I have it in a really simple view showing just cost and my advance rate, but I can break out and show all of the detail of my work right on this screen and bring up all of my productivity information and run reports right off of this screen. You'll notice that not only can I send it out to Excel if I ever needed to do further manipulation, but I can run a print preview right off of here, and I can actually format this quite a bit, put my company logo on here, whatever headers and footers I need, and do a lot of output right out of the main screen. But beyond that, there's also a business intelligence portion of Hard Dollar that's an analytics tool that is more of the dashboard kind of approach, showing you the key indicators. It's going to highlight and call out key issues.
Plus probably like 130-something CAN reports as well,
right?
Too. So I guess that's the beauty of the two things working together, is you wind up getting the reporting capabilities of the system while you get the data source of the InfoMine data together.
Yeah, so thanks for the question, Dinesh.
And if you have any questions about where to download or where can you get the plugin from Hard Dollar so you can stick it under your Hard Dollar, or if you need information about Hard Dollar, again, you can write info@harddollar.com. You can contact us either at ron.babich@harddollar.com or call 480-776-2900. We'll send out the link afterwards so you can watch this again. And I realize we went through this kind of fast, so it's kind of hard to follow along sometimes and see how it really works. And sometimes just doing it yourself is the best way to kind of figure it out. We're happy to accommodate that as well. Just want to get people onto the latest and greatest technologies and get off the paper, the paper trail. So we're happy to do that. We're excited about our next workshop as well that's coming up here in a couple months, and we'll keep you up to date on that. If you have any questions, again, follow up with us. We thank you very much for taking time out of your day to sit with us today, and we appreciate your time. If there aren't any more questions, then we'll wrap it up and say thanks for coming, and we'll see you at the next workshop. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Take care.